Good morning everyone, this is Chris Ensor at Richmond Farm. I just thought I'd do a little video on what we've done in this paddock here. This paddock looks pretty amazing at the moment, but it hasn't always been looked as successful as it is right now. What we did in this paddock is this paddock's quite prone to flooding. As you can see, all that lower part, I'm on a little bit of a rise here, all that lower part there, sort of down in front of Minx there is, you can kind of see the little track going into it, is very flood prone, and so about the only part that's not going to get flooded in a good flood is where I am. Probably, not even a hectare up here. It's 3.7 hectares in this paddock. So this area that I'm in is the only part that doesn't get flooded. So anyway, long story short is that we didn't have any stock in here really at lambing at all. We had a bit of a skim through, but that was about it. So what we did is we planted this in autumn with a bit of a direct sowed it into dry eaten out pasture with a multi-species mix. We should have put oats in, but we didn't. There was a handful of oats that were left over from another mix that I just chucked in there, and they really excelled and showed much more than the rye corn that you can kind of see is now. But when we did it at the time, the rye corn just, I think it might have been a poor batch of rye corn. A couple of bits of it were wet, and so that kind of gets me feeling that it was either a bit old, had just been a bit damp. Anyway, it germinated all right. It's quite a heavy sowing. Germinated all right, but then it just didn't come through. The grass just took over really quickly. Nice to see that it is coming through in patches. This paddock's looking really good, but it's also because of that flood risk. We haven't grazed it when we grazed in the winter rotation. We grazed it once, but we haven't had any lambers in it because you can't get young lambs out of a paddock if a flood comes up quickly. So anyway, what I kind of just thought was I'd show is just how it's interesting how species that don't look like they're going to show, things like the crimson a bit and the vetch, they're just really coming through with a little bit more rest. These beans, probably a lot of those were taken out in that winter graze. The lupins are showing a bit more because the stock take a while to get onto them, and they're starting to get onto them by this paddock, but they hadn't really got a taste for them. There's a bit of Italian in here. You can kind of see there's a bit of Italian down there. I think it was about 5 kilos of Italian, so it wasn't a great rate. But yeah, this paddock's looking amazing. I just realised I'm actually a bit too far, quite a long way from what else I was going to show you, so I'll just do a quick walk over here. It's always looks a little bit better where there's the afternoon shade, which was where we started, and against that fence. Looks a bit better, it thins out a bit here. But the thing that is also really interesting, and I said a short video and we're already at 3 minutes, so apologies for it not being as short as planned, but is that when I did graze this, I camped them in this middle strip. And so where we are now was the last graze of the day. Then they camped, so they didn't actually, I don't think they had any water in this graze because there's a water point from the river just over there, but then where they camped is just significantly greater volume. Like you can see the line just here for where the brake fence was, and yeah, you look at this, it's just, you can see pretty much, you could count how many pisses were done if you really wanted to. You can see every urine patch from that night or every poo patch. But yeah, it's really looking a lot better here, and it shows that things like that rye corn that was probably barely showing at the time has really come through with that little bit of extra natural fertiliser. We did feed a little bit of hay at the time as well. We're just in winter giving them a bit of roughage, but not much. Surprisingly, the hay hasn't actually been eaten much and it hasn't broken down. But anyway, this is quite impressive, and then if you were to go another 50 odd metres that way to where their first morning break was, it drops back to being a bit like that first section where it's not as thick and not as lush. But yeah, I'm actually quite impressed by how much crimson has come through in here, considering it didn't look like there was much of a strike. It's always late to show, but it's looking quite good now. A little bit flowering just there. And yeah, the sheep are coming on to this in the next 48 hours. We're going to try to fence it long ways, which is quite long, but just to get good trampling, and yeah, make the most of their impact as well as give them a good feed. So alright, that'll do us for now. Thanks for watching.